Hi there, it's Nicole for Simon Says Stamp, and today I have a couple of cards showcasing the Artful Flowers stamp set. This is a stamp set that was released a while back, but I love the flowers from it, and I was in a bit of a creative slump and I was trying to find something to just color and help me get out of that, and this project really did help. I often like to pick a image that I think is pretty and just color. That will help get me out of a slump many times. What I'm going to do is take a whole bunch of scraps of Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm actually out of my Bristol Smooth cardstock, so I don't have any to create like backgrounds or anything like that, but I have all these teeny tiny scraps. I'm always looking for a great way to use those up. Something that is fun is to be able to use all of those little scraps of paper by stamping, coloring, and die cutting from them. And I love using the zigs the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers on this paper. They blend beautifully whether you use just the markers or if you add water like I'm going to today. I'm stamping the images with Versamark ink and heat embossing with white fine detail embossing powder. And I stamped a bunch of them. This was a project where I really didn't know where I was going to go from the inception of stamping everything to the completion of the card. I just wanted to color, so I stamped a bunch, many more than what I actually think would fit on my card for what I ended up doing. So I'm going to have more than I need, which is okay. You can use them on multiple projects. You could save them for later if you want to, but this gives me a lot of options for mixing and matching the flowers. I started by adding a couple of colors, a red and a pink, to my first flower and blending that, and then adding a lighter pink to the next one. So there's about 3 in each color grouping. I've kind of got some pinky red ones, some yellow oranges, and then some purples. And I try to do something different with each. So the first one has a combination of 2 colors. Then I tried to do one a little bit lighter and then one a little bit darker. So this one is only going to have mostly a red color and blend it out with the water. If you don't have a water brush pen, you can use a paintbrush and dip it into water. You may even have a little bit more control that way. I like to use the water brush pen with water in it, but you don't have to. If you have a water brush pen, you can dip it in water and paint with it that way for a little bit more control of how much water might end up on your project. The centers of the flowers, I did not bother blending out with the water brush pen at all. I didn't want too much water to make a big mess in the center, so I just kind of added those 2 colors and blended them as is. For the yellows, I'm adding yellow and orange to the first flower. The next flower will only have yellow, so it's going to be much lighter. I did go back and add just tiny touches of orange to it, not near as much as I did for that first bloom. I felt like it needed a little bit more definition. You want to make sure that you clean out your tip of your brush after you change or when you change colors. Otherwise, you can cross-contaminate and drag reds into your yellows and things like that. Go ahead and color one in with my orange marker now. Same thing, just blend that out. I definitely was going for more springtime feeling flowers here. Lots and lots of color. Color in the center of a couple more of those flowers. I like to let my watercolored images air dry if at all possible. So what I did here was colored them all in, went and had lunch, changed laundry, did things like that, and came back about 45 minutes later and then die cut the images and put the rest of my card together. But if you're in a hurry, you can definitely hit it with a heat tool and dry it much quicker. Just like before, I did a flower with 2 shades of purple. This one's going to have the darker shade of purple only. And the last one is going to have the lighter shade of purple. I ended up trying to pull in some pink, and it really did not work. I didn't like it at all. In fact, I thought I might trash the flower because I didn't like the color combination. I went ahead and colored it, let it sit, came back after lunch, and it ended up being one of my favorite flowers. I really liked the color, the combination. It didn't bother me that a couple of the petals had a little bit of pink in them. So maybe give it a couple minutes or give it 30 minutes or so and come back. If you think you've ruined something, a lot of times your opinion will have changed, or you can find little fixes for it and not have to ruin something that you've worked on. These stems are all colored with a couple of shades of green. They're pretty thin. Not a ton of blending has to go on here, but a little bit. I have a darker green and a lighter green that's more of a yellow green. Trying to pull a little bit more of that dark into the lighter areas. I even went back in and added a little bit more dark to blend that out. Darken them up just a tiny bit. And then I die cut all of these with the coordinating dies. My background was created by die cutting some actual watercolor cardstock with a basic rectangles die from Simon Says Stamp. I'm applying Twisted Citron and Salty Ocean Distress inks to a portion of the background, blending where the two colors meet to really get a nice seamless blend. Once I have those colors placed or on there the way I want them to look, I'm going to spritz this background with water from a distress sprayer and then blot it dry with a paper towel. I like this for really not only distressing, but I think it softens the background and makes the elements you put on the forefront pop even more. So blotting that all dry. I have laid out my flowers now. These are the flowers I'm going to use for the first card. And like I was talking near the beginning of the video, I had more flowers than what I actually needed. So instead of tossing them or saving them for something else, while they're out, I went ahead and created two backgrounds exactly the same, and I'm going to put together both cards. Starting from left to right, I am adhering the elements to the first panel. For the stems, because they're so long and skinny, the best adhesive really is a liquid adhesive. I'm using the EK Success glue pen to attach the stems and some glue dots to attach the florals. And after I have this done, then I'll stamp the greeting. Because I have an odd number of flowers, one card is going to have 5 flowers and one will have 4. And that's absolutely fine. If you want an even number for both, you can go ahead and stamp and color an additional one. I didn't want to go through those extra steps, and it really didn't bother me that they weren't exactly the same. I was just happy to be able to use up all of the elements. I'm going to use the Misty to stamp my greetings from the Thankful Heart stamp set, and this is because I went ahead and adhered the elements first. I do not want to chance it that I stamp it crooked or don't get a good impression and need to stamp it again and I'm not able to line it up. So I'm using the Misty to help eliminate the chance of those things happening. Starting with the smaller phrase first because it's closer to the flowers, I want to make sure I have plenty of room. I stamped it, and I did need to stamp it twice. There were a couple of areas that were kind of faint, so I was really glad I went with using the stamp positioner tool. Then I'm going to line up the word thanks right above that. And I apologize, my head's in the way. I'm trying to get it as straight on as possible. And I'm going to ink this up. And I already kind of knew this from using this stamp set before, but any image that's more solid or has a bolder outline like this often needs to be stamped twice to really get a good stamped impression. So that was stamped twice as well. I'll go ahead and flip the panel over and just snip off anything that is hanging over the edges. I'm using my Tim Holtz little mini snips scissors here. Grab all of those and toss all those little pieces in the trash. And there is my panel. Using a side fold, or top fold rather, card base from Simon Says Stamp, I'm going to attach that And then I'm using some Scrap Perfect adhesives and also a little jelly placement tool to attach some of my favorite embellishments, the Pretty Pink Posh Sparkling Clear 4mm and 6mm Sparkling Clear sequins. If you think your card maybe needs just a little something, sequins are always where I go to, and I tend to gravitate towards the clear ones. I just love them. They go with everything. These are some fun adhesives and an adhesive placement tool that I hadn't tried before, but worked really well, and they stayed in place wonderfully. I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on my top fold card base, put my card panel there, and my thank you card is finished. I will do the exact same thing for the second card, and now I have 2 thank you cards. Thanks for joining me today for this video showcasing Simon Says Stamp stamps and dies used to create 2 watercolored thank you cards. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring some watercolor techniques that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.